USA might just be the World Cup's latest problem.
It's under the defence again, should be 2, and it is 2! This is Reina. Oh, yes! Dest! Might still be!
For years, US soccer was easily overlooked. After all, a country that calls it soccer was never taken too seriously. But this isn't that team anymore. Since their disastrous 2024 Copa America campaign, Mauricio Pochettino has overseen a complete transformation. There's cohesion where there was once chaos, confidence where there was once doubt. Add the energy of a home World Cup in 2026, and that belief is no longer quiet. It's very real. But how exactly did this turnaround happen? And why have the US suddenly become one of the tournament's most dangerous dark horses? Going into the 2024 Copa America on home soil, the USMNT hoped to build momentum ahead of co-hosting the World Cup 2 years later. And, with one of the most talented rosters in the programme's history, fans anticipated a glimpse of the team's next level. Instead, the US failed to even advance from a group featuring Panama and Bolivia, who were ranked 32 and 73 places below them in the FIFA World Rankings. Much of the criticism centred on then-manager Gregg Berhalter, aka the American Ten Hag, whose in-game management during the tournament proved even shakier than my life decisions. A prime example was in the second match against Panama, during which they went down to 10 men in the 18th minute but managed to hold a 1-1 scoreline until half-time. But rather than push for control after the interval, Berhalter adopted a defensive approach by introducing 2 centre-backs and a defensive midfielder with 45 minutes still to play. Not exactly on brand for a nation famous for its aggressive foreign policy. Panama eventually capitalised with a late winner, while the Americans, already stripped of their attacking firepower, failed to mount a response. The final group game against Uruguay further exposed the team's fragility. Needing to better Panama's result against Bolivia, Berhalter appeared to signal 1-1 to his players before defending a second-half free kick, indicating that Panama and Bolivia were level and that a draw would be enough to advance. Moments later, you guessed it, Uruguay scored the goal that eliminated the United States. In truth, that weak mindset had lingered since the start of Berhalter's second stint in September 2023. While he previously led the team to the 2022 World Cup and collected regional silverware, inconsistency defined his return. His overall record, 17 losses and 13 draws in 74 matches, combined with 6 defeats in his final 14 games, made his dismissal after the Copa America inevitable. Berhalter was not solely responsible, but he struggled to elevate a talented squad into something greater than the sum of its parts. Under him, the US repeatedly fumbled as favourites, while failing to compete against elite opposition, winning just 5 matches against FIFA's then top 20 teams, 4 of which came against Mexico and 1 against Iran. In the aftermath of the Copa America collapse, the 2 years leading up to it felt like a squandered opportunity. That frustration was compounded by the drawn-out process that led to Berhalter's rehiring in 2023, a decision widely scrutinised due to his brother Jay Berhalter's role as the Federation's chief commercial officer. The reinstatement took 6 months, delayed by leadership changes and an investigation into a decades-old domestic violence incident involving Berhalter and his wife that resurfaced. Too much drama and too little good football. Older US soccer fans might remember a different identity. The national team once thrived as fearless underdogs, knocking Mexico out of the 2002 World Cup group stage, stunning Spain at the 2009 Confederations Cup, and treating every match at the 2010 World Cup like a knockout game. They lacked star power, but they never lacked belief. That relentless, never-say-die mentality defined the programme. Today, the equation has flipped. The current squad is, on paper, the most internationally accomplished in US history. Most starters play in Europe's top 5 leagues. Several represent Champions League clubs. And yet, somewhere along that evolution, the edge has dulled, and the results have not matched the pedigree. That said, the team was anything but a finished product. Aside from Tim Ream, none of the core players had fully entered their prime, and the squad as a whole was the second youngest at the Copa America. What they needed was direction. And while a new head coach might not fix everything, it could prove just the spark to transform promise into results. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, we'd be incredibly grateful if you subscribed. Your support helps us grow and continue creating the content you love. Pochettino has anchored his career on the belief that to achieve anything meaningful in life, you must dare to dream big. It's a belief that befits his story. He had assembled competitive teams at underdogs Espanyol and Southampton, then famously built up Tottenham and guided them to their first major European final in 35 years. He later managed a star-studded Paris Saint-Germain and appeared to steady the ship at Chelsea before unexpectedly leaving the London club in 2024. Across his last two roles, he fell short of towering expectations, but it's why his current position with the US carries a sense of redemption for both the country and himself. It didn't take Pochettino long to realise that real progress would require a reset sharper than post-nut clarity. He believed the Soccer Federation had placed too much responsibility on certain players, from getting them overly involved in coaching decisions to shaping training camp schedules and even defining their own roles when called up. At that point, they might as well be coaching themselves. Instead, Pochettino wanted to relieve them of that weight, centralise authority and make it clear that leadership would come from the staff. Within the squad, there was also a growing sense that a few established players were virtually untouchable, leaving those on the fringes believing they had little chance of breaking through. Pochettino changed that. He introduced new faces and made it clear that every World Cup role was not only there to be earned, but well within reach. It wasn't the easiest path, it certainly created tension, but it hardened the group's mentality and raised standards to a whole new level, as shown recently in their ability to adapt and keep winning, even with key players like Christian Pulisic sidelined. Since taking over after the disastrous Copa America in 2024, Pochettino's tenure hasn't been entirely smooth. Alongside a Gold Cup final loss to Mexico, the US also suffered disappointing CONCACAF Nations League defeats to Panama in the semi-finals and Canada in the third-place match. Even in 2026, the US showed glaring weaknesses in their two friendlies at the start of the year, conceding 5 goals against Belgium and then losing 2-0 to Portugal. They then responded with a win over Senegal but fell again to Germany. Individually, however, there have been positives. Weston McKennie has been one of Juventus's most consistent performers. Pulisic remains a top talent despite a dip in form late in the season. And Folarin Balogun arrives on the back of an impressive run that saw him score in 8 straight league matches for Monaco. Yet the excitement surrounding this World Cup reflects the US's years of investment in the sport. Progress has come through both the development of domestic talent as well as transformative moves that have reshaped soccer's image in the country. Most notably David Beckham's arrival in the MLS, and later Lionel Messi's impact in an Inter Miami shirt. Perhaps for that reason, the US entered this tournament with a genuine belief that history could be made.
The thing that I told the other day is, why not us? Why not us? Why not us? We need to really believe.
They have so far backed it up on the pitch, opening with a historic 4-1 win over Paraguay before beating a resilient Australia side 2-0 to top Group D. Now the target is clear: surpass the quarter-final stage they reached in 2002. It's ambitious but far from unrealistic, especially if they can carry their momentum forward and lean on the home support they will have in abundance.
Right now, when you start looking across the board and all the teams that have played so far in this World Cup, and we have seen all the teams play, and now we've seen some of the teams play twice, and you start kind of coming to conclusions as to what these teams are, you have to be impressed by what the United States have done. I don't think any of us sitting in this panel or anybody that follows this team closely would have expected not only that they won both matches, but that they won both matches in the manner in which they did.
If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, don't forget to hit the notifications bell so you never miss a beat. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.